Political campaigning has closed in Kenya ahead of the nation's general elections on Tuesday. Presidential frontrunners Raila Odinga and William Ruto pledged in their last rallies yesterday to accept the results of the tightly contested race and keep the peace. Kenyans go to the polls to elect a president, members of parliament and senate, as well as representatives to the country assemblies.
In one corner of Nairobi, a sea of blue. These are former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's supporters. They wait for their candidate not too long. On the other side of the city, it was a yellow affair. Deputy President William Ruto's supporters also out in their numbers. As is now tradition, Nairobi was the venue of the leader's last call. And when the leaders finally came, pomp and colour accompanied their entry into the stadium. Making a lap of honour, greeting supporters, and then finally getting down to business. For Odinga, who has tried 4 times and unsuccessfully failed to clinch the title, this was his moment. He told his supporters he could smell victory.
Whose hands will dismantle the bandit economy of corruption? In whose hands are your families safe? When you look at your children, who do you feel will really make sure that you have the ability to give them the best that they deserve?
He promised to work across party lines and political support should he be elected winner.
I will shake their hand if I win, and I will shake their hand if I don't.
Ruto, on the other hand, promised to bring down the cost of living, create jobs and fight corruption.
On Tuesday, you will be choosing between the team that has a plan about the future of our country and the team that will tell you many stories about the past and what happened in the past.
Ruto was also conciliatory, promising to heal the wounds of the divisive campaigns.
That on 9th, when the people of Kenya make their decision as Kenya Kwanza, we will respect the decision of the people of Kenya because we are Democrats.
This is Ruto's first stab at the presidency, and although opinion polls have put him slightly behind former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, he says he's confident of a win. He promises to pick up from where they left off with President Kenyatta during their first term in office. Sunday and Monday will be quiet days, giving the Electoral Commission time to make last-minute deliveries of electoral materials. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kenya.
Declining voter registrations amongst the youth is a growing concern in Kenya. This as presidential elections are due to be held on Tuesday. Many young Kenyans say that they refuse to participate because they feel that the politicians are not genuinely concerned with addressing the challenges that they face.
30-year-old motorbike taxi driver Calvin Sokumu hasn't decided whether he will vote when Kenyans head to the polls on August the 9th. And he's not alone. Youth apathy threatens to sour Kenya's presidential election. Many in the East African country have not registered to vote.
I don't see much representation, like mostly for us the youth. We're just there to be youth and to be promised things that will never come to pass.
Okumu's colleague, Nikundi Walter, agrees.
I'm not going to vote. Reason being, these are the same people we have been having all through these years. They give us promises, but at the end of the day, there's nothing getting fulfilled.
The number of registered voters aged 18 to 34 has dropped by 5% since the last election in 2017. And that's despite population growth of 12%.
I think it's a very clear...
Political analyst Tom Boyer says that's a very clear signal from the younger population.
That perhaps they're a little bit disenchanted with the direction that our politics has taken. They're perhaps not feeling as if the politics of the day is inclusive enough for them and doesn't necessarily address many of the issues that they would wish to see addressed.
Not a single vote should go uncast.
Kenya's population is predominantly young, about 80% according to recent figures from the Electoral Commission. But with more than a tenth of those aged 18 to 34 unemployed, many like Okumu and Walter are more concerned with finding steady work.
All right, so it's all systems go for the Kenyan elections taking place on Tuesday. To get some analysis on this, we're now joined by human rights activist and executive director of the Future of Kenya Foundation, CIPRIAN Nyamwamu. Thank you so much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so the campaigning is done. All that's left is for people to cast their votes on Tuesday. What's your take on the journey to these elections? Because there were a lot of fears about pre-electoral violence that would take place, particularly around Nairobi, but it seems to have gone relatively peacefully.
According to our analysis, the elections in Kenya normally are peaceful. All the violence normally follows the elections. So everything goes well until the voting is normally very peaceful. The counting goes well. The problem starts to come in after the tally and the announcement of the results. That's when you start seeing the conflict and the violence. It is not different even in this election.
All right, so there's still concern that things may turn for the worse once these results come through. Is the electoral body ready? Are the systems working? There were questions raised about the electronic voters' roll at one point.
We still have doubts. The Electoral Commission says they are all set and ready, but when we did a bit of the simulation in terms of a bit of the systems, there were doubts that that was completely in order. There's a little bit of fear about the network coverage across the country because we rely on the network coverage to send results. But give and take, we can say that the Electoral Commission is fairly prepared, slightly better prepared than they were in 2017, in the 2017 general election.
What do you make of the fact that there was a low voter registration by the youth in the country? And given that the majority of our countries on the continent are very young, they actually potentially could change the politics of the country if they showed up.
Now, that's a very important question. There are about 3 explanations to this. The first explanation is that the people who have been controlling politics in Kenya have been doing it since 1997. For 25 years, it has been the same people who have been dictating the politics in this country, so the young people feel disconnected. Secondly, the whole idea about the government controlling results and elections. And thirdly, that violence has been associated with elections over the last, practically over the last 4 elections. This has led to the youth apathy, who are largely unemployed. The economic and political explanations are very clear, and that is why a lot of young people decided not to register to vote. This is a big concern, especially for a country whose median age is 19.5 years. 19.5 years. So this is a very young country, but many of the young people did not register. It's because of the apathy that politicians don't change their lives.
So does that mean that there's very little in terms of undecided voters that could swing the vote one way or the other? Are we seeing essentially those that support Odinga and those that support Ruto, that's what they will do. No one is going to cross that line.
Not quite. There is a sizable percentile, about 8% points, that have expressed that they are undecided still. It is approximated that this may be divided evenly between the two leading contenders, which is likely to push Odinga probably to 53% and William Ruto to about 45%. And so the scenario of a rerun, a runoff election has now become remote, but it was actually feared just 3 weeks ago. So right now we are looking at one of them getting the threshold, meeting the threshold of 50% plus one. Whichever way it goes, it is expected that we are likely to avoid a runoff.
So the polls, what are they saying in terms of who will get past the line, and how accurate have they been in the past?
The polling in Kenya has been marred with controversy, especially in the 2017 general election when Cambridge Analytica became a big player in the propaganda and the disinformation process in the 2017 general election. But previously, going back to 1997, 2002, 2007, we saw that the polling, including the exit polls by international agencies like IRI of America, were pretty accurate. They were pretty accurate. And we do not think that this year's polling is going to miss the mark too far. However, both sides claim that they are actually the ones who are going to clinch the victory. And they say that the opinion polls, especially the group which has been polled at number 2, led by the deputy president, they are saying that the polls that we are seeing are cooked up. But we tend to see that they are accurate across in the 47 county governments. And so there's no big reason to fear that they are not too accurate. They are pretty accurate, knowing about the errors of the margins of error.
So traditionally, Kenyan politics has been very male-dominated. Some might even say patriarchal, and even use words like misogynistic even when it comes to dealing with female candidates. What about the Martha Karua factor? Will that change things in this particular election?
The Martha Karua factor is big. To be sure, if it was not for Raila Odinga choosing Martha Karua, his ticket was basically dead in the waters. It is the choice of Martha Karua that has actually turned the reality in favor of Raila Odinga. Before Martha was selected as the running mate for Raila Odinga on May the 12th May, Raila Odinga was performing pretty poorly. He was about 6 to 7 points behind Ruto. It is Martha Karua's coming onto the ticket, which has swung a huge section of the women and the youth, surprisingly, in favor of Raila Odinga. And we think that was actually decisive, probably the game changer in this election. Our hope is that then this will lead to probably 5 to 10 years of remarkable improvement in terms of the gender relationships and gender outcomes in governance and planning.
All right, I was about to ask you about the future. Given that both of these presidential hopefuls are really old school when it comes to politics in the country, do you see a different Kenya after Tuesday, or is it just going to be a continuation of the kind of politics that we've seen for decades now?
There is a huge likelihood that whoever wins the election things are no longer remaining as they used to be, because the new constitution, we still call it new, although it has been around for 11 years now. The constitution of Kenya has changed very many factors in the politics of it. One of the reasons why there is no huge fear of, grand violence across the country is because of the 47 county governments, because that has changed the arrangement. So we hope, and we actually have seen, that devolution of government through the decentralized system has changed a lot in favor of democracy and also the economy. So we know that, and we can actually project that whoever wins the election, there will be a change for the better in the coming years. And the constitutional arrangement ensures that there are inbuilt mechanisms for a forward trajectory instead of, sliding backwards into tyranny, into corruption. And that's why you saw that even corruption was is still a major issue in this election.
All right. Well, we are waiting with bated breath for this outcome, and let's see what happens on Tuesday. But for tonight, thanks so much.